This is the only video you will ever need on manifestation. You have saved 100 videos on manifestation. You have a playlist of them. You have watched men in expensive chairs promise you the universe, and you have closed the app and felt exactly the same as before. So let me say the thing they will not. Manifestation is not a mood. It is not a vision board you glance at on a Tuesday. It is not wishing harder. There is one law underneath all of it. The law 4 men and women spend their entire lives proving, and it runs in 5 steps. Not 7, not 21, 5. And once you have them, you will not need another video, because there is nothing else to know. I am not going to give you the trick in the first 30 seconds, because there is no trick, there is a sequence. Walk it with me, step by step, and by the end of these 10 minutes, you will understand prosperity more completely than the playlist ever taught you. Let's begin. Step 1. Decide exactly. There was a young man with no money, no connections, and barely the train fare, who stepped off a freight car in New Jersey, walked into the laboratory of the most famous inventor alive, and announced that he had not come looking for a job. He had come to go into business with him, as a partner. The inventor said the man looked like an ordinary tramp, but there was something in the way he said it. Years later, that young man's name was on the contracts. His name was Edwin Barnes, and the inventor was Thomas Edison. Here is what most people miss about that story. Barnes was not vague. He did not want to do something with his life. He had decided one definite thing, and he had named it. This is where Hill began everything, the definite chief aim. Because your subconscious mind cannot act on a fog. It cannot move toward I want more money. There is no such address. It can only move toward a thing you have named precisely enough that you would recognize the day it arrived. The subconscious, Hill said, makes no distinction between a thought you fear and a thought you choose. It works with whatever you feed it, but it cannot carry you toward the target you have refused to define. So tonight, you write one thing, not a list. One, an amount, a thing, a state of being, specific enough that you would know without asking anyone the day it became real. But a sentence on a page is not yet a seed. What turns that sentence into a living force is the next step, and it is the one almost everyone skips. Step 2, seed already done. There was a woman living in a small room in the Bronx who longed for a home in the country, a house, with land that she had no money to buy and no path to obtain. A teacher told her to do one thing each night before sleep, to lie in her narrow bed and imagine she was already lying in the country home, to feel the larger room around her, to hear the quiet. She did it, night after night, and in time, through a sequence of events no one could have engineered, she was living in it. That woman was one of Neville Goddard's own students, and he told her story for the rest of his life. Notice what she did not do. She did not specify how. She did not demand a particular inheritance or a particular sale. Goddard said this constantly: do not specify the means. Specify the end. Live in the end. The means will arrange themselves. Because the subconscious does not distinguish between a memory of something that happened and a scene you have imagined vividly and returned to again and again. It treats both with the same machinery. And what it accepts as memory, it then arranges the world to confirm. Hill taught the identical thing in his own words: see and feel yourself already in possession of the result. So, design one scene, not the wanting, the having, the moment just after it is done. Where are you standing? Who is with you? What was just said to you? what is in your hand. Enter that scene tonight from the inside, not watching yourself like a film, but as the person to whom it is happening. And yet, a scene seen once and forgotten does nothing at all. The single element that turns the picture into a seed is step 3. Step 3. Feel it as true. Goddard wrote an entire book on one word. He called it Feeling is the Secret, a whole book on feeling. Ask yourself why a man would spend a book on something so small. Because it is not small, it is the entire mechanism. Hill said it plainly. Words read without feeling are sound, not seed. They produce nothing. You can repeat an affirmation 1,000 times, and if there is no feeling in it, you have thrown 1,000 stones into a dry well. Proctor said the same thing in 3 words. Emotion is energy. The autosuggestion without emotion is a sentence. The autosuggestion with emotion is a current, and the current, repeated, magnetizes the subconscious in the direction you have chosen. Shin told of a man who came to her, struggling in his work. She gave him a line to speak. I have a wonderful work in a wonderful way. I give wonderful service for wonderful pay. He spoke it for days. He came back and said nothing had changed. She asked him one question. Did you speak it as a man who already has it, or as a man begging for it? He had been begging. So she sent him back to speak it as a man who had already received that very afternoon. In a market that had been closed to him for months, he closed a deal worth $41,000. 4 teachers, 1 law. Hill called it emotionalized autosuggestion. Proctor called it the prosperous vibration. Shin called it the spoken word felt as already true. Goddard called it simply feeling. The same act seen through 4 windows. So, when you read your one definite thing, morning and night, slow the reading down. Pause at each line. Let it land. And ask yourself the only question that matters. How would I feel right now if this were already true? Whatever feeling rises, that is the seed. Sleep in it. Feeling impresses the subconscious in silence, but there is a force that sends the decision out loud, and it is the oldest tool any of them taught. Step 4. Speak it and act it. A woman came to a small parlor in New York, buried under a debt she had no way to pay, the kind of debt that keeps a person awake staring at the ceiling. The teacher there did not give her a budget. She gave her a sentence. Infinite Spirit, open the way for great abundance. I cast this burden, and I go free. She spoke it, not once, over and over, with quietness and determination, the way you would wind a spring. And the supply came not through the door she had been watching, but through one she never thought to look at. That parlor belonged to Florence Scovel Shin, and she watched this happen for years. Your word, Shin thought, is your wand. The mind speaks in pictures, but the world answers the spoken word. So stop speaking lack. Stop rehearsing the problem aloud. Speak the decree of the thing decided, and speak it as one who already holds it. Then Hill adds the half that makes it real. He called it daily proof. The man who has truly decided does not wait for the result to start behaving like the man he has decided to be. He carries himself differently today. He spends his time differently today. He acts in small, visible ways as the person who has already turned the corner before the corner is visibly turned. And if even one of these steps has already shifted how you see your own mind, subscribe because the whole of this law is exactly what this channel exists to give you. So choose one decree. Speak it morning and night with conviction, not strain. And today, not tomorrow, take one small action that the deciding version of you would take. One. And now we come to the one step that can quietly undo the other four, or guarantee them. Step 5. Persist without starting over. There was a young man who quit school in the 8th grade. He worked in a fire department in Toronto, was buried in debt, and one ordinary day picked up a worn paperback called Think and Grow Rich. He did not read it once. He read it in some form every single day for years long, before anything in his outer life moved an inch. And then it moved. His income multiplied many times over, and he spent the rest of his life teaching the law that changed him. His name was Bob Proctor. Proctor used to say, a plane in flight is off course almost the entire way, drifting, correcting, and still it arrives, because the destination is fixed. That is the secret of persistence, not that you never wobble, that you never change the destination. Goddard said it in 4 words. Persistence is residence, an assumption, though false at first, if persisted in, hardens into fact. And Hill said the cleanest line of all, no man is ever whipped, until he quits in his own mind. Hear that. The lapse is never the failure. The skipped night, the off day, the moment of doubt, none of that is the failure. The failure is the inner verdict that calls the lapse final. That decides you are back at the beginning. You are not back at the beginning. You briefly stepped into a hallway. The room is unchanged. So here are 3 sentences for the next time you lapse. And you will. Speak them aloud the moment you notice. I have not started over. I am continuing. The verdict stands. And here is the honest truth. No one in the expensive chairs tells you. The proof comes after the persistence, not before. You hold the state when there is no evidence for it. You keep going when a louder voice calls you a liar. And then, one day, a small, unexpected good arrives from a direction you were never watching, and in that moment, the belief stops being belief. It becomes knowing. That is the whole law. 5 steps. There is nothing else to learn. Decide exactly. See it already done. Feel it as true. Speak it and act it. And persist without ever starting over. But here is the quiet trap, and I want to name it before you close this video. Wisdom you only admire changes nothing. Wisdom you install changes everything. You could understand every word I just said perfectly and still feel exactly the same in a month, because understanding is not installation. So start tonight. I made a free daily auto-suggestion sheet, the exact morning and night impression Hill prescribed, the felt assumption Goddard taught, the spoken decree Shin lived by, all distilled onto one page. It comes with 3 short emails that show you how to use it so it actually takes root, instead of becoming one more thing you admired and forgot. It's the first link in the description. Claim it. Read it morning and night, and let it begin its quiet work. You said you wanted the only video you would ever need. You have it. The rest is not more watching. The rest is the doing, and I gave you that as well with the auto-suggestion sheet.